This short video will be maybe too technical for many people, so unless you're interested in the details, the intricate details of Jewish law, you might not necessarily want to listen to it, but my point is to make a warning before I start. So in this weekly Parsha, we read for the first time about the second son of Moshe. His name was Eliezer. We didn't really know about this before, although most likely, and that's how most commentators understand, he was indirectly mentioned as the child who was circumcised by Tzipporah. If you remember, in the beginning of the book of Shemot, in the first Parsha, there was a very weird story about somebody who was in danger, either Moshe himself or his child. It's not clear in the text, and the sages of the Talmud already had an argument about it. There were two opinions about it. But at any rate, Tzipporah quickly circumcised this child, and then he was let go. He recovered. Some say it was an angel that was sent to either bring danger to Moshe or to his son. Others understand it more in more prosaic way, I guess, that it was simply that one of them got sick, and Tzipporah, understanding that it's not for nothing, there is a reason that either her husband or her son is in sakana, in danger, so she quickly circumcised her son, and then the danger went away. And the sages say, of course, that Moshe was too slow to circumcise his son. They were on the way. He didn't want to waste any time, and he thought it would be dangerous to continue the journey with his son that was just recently circumcised. That's why he didn't circumcise him immediately. So according to this, apparently Eliezer was just born, maybe even on the way or a few days before Moshe had to leave, and since he could not delay his mission to Egypt, so therefore he didn't circumcise his son, but he was in the end, he put himself or his son in danger, and Tzipporah is the one who understood it and saved the situation. Whatever the case may be, if this was Eliezer, chances are Tzipporah later returned to her father with her two sons, because she couldn't continue the journey with a son that was just recently circumcised. That would be dangerous. Or for other reasons, some of our sages thought that Aaron suggested to Moshe that he shouldn't take Tzipporah to Egypt. It's too dangerous. So somehow Tzipporah ended up with Yitro. The Torah doesn't tell us how, but there are a lot of cases when the Torah tells us something later, and we could figure out what happened before based on these verses. So we know that Yitro, the father-in-law of Moshe, is coming with his daughter, who is the wife of Moshe, and the two sons, Gershom and Eliezer. So what I wanted to discuss, though, is a technical term here: Gershom and Eliezer. Where do we find the name Eliezer before? The servant of Avram, Damesek Eliezer, right? So this name we already saw in the Torah. A different individual. Some say he was from Damascus, that's why he was called Damesek. Certainly the term Damesek is mentioned in the Torah in that sense too. We know that when Avram pursued the four kings, it was towards that area. The Damascus already existed. Right? It's a very, very old city. So one possibility is that Eliezer was from there. There are other interpretations of this term Damesek, but Eliezer, at least the name Eliezer, we know for sure we already met that name. What about Gershom? There is somebody who is a son of Levi, one of the three sons of Levi, whose name is Gershon with a nun at the end. Is this the same name or not? It's a very interesting question. There's also a similar question about Eliezer and Elazar. While the son of Moshe, the second son of Moshe, was Eliezer, there was a son of Aaron, one of his four sons. It was his third son, whose name was Elazar. Are these the same name? I mean, they certainly seem to mean the same. It means God is my helper, or God help me, or something like that. A lot of Jewish names, of course, have the name of God in them somehow. So it's clear what the meaning of the name is. It's not clear if it's the same name or not. So one of the consequences is that when technical papers in Jewish law are made, for instance, the most important paper that's ever made is Gittin, when a man is divorcing his wife. The Torah tells us that he has to give her Sefer Kritut. He cannot just say, I'm divorcing you, or she cannot just leave him and say bye-bye, right? There's a procedure, and the procedure is called Sefer Kritut in the Torah, which is Gittin in Aramaic language, right? The get, the paper that, the bill of divorce, they usually translate into English, the paper, it doesn't have to be paper, of course, it used to be written a lot of times on leather of some kind, right? All kinds of cloth, right? All kinds of different things can be used to make a get. Kosher get doesn't have to be written on paper, but it's a document of divorce, a bill of divorce. So one of the laws of this bill is that the names have to be spelled properly. There are all kinds of intricate Jewish laws about spelling the names. And there's whole alphabetically arranged books with the names of female names and male names, how to spell them, because it's not always so obvious. And one of the rules that's brought in these books is that Elazar and Eliezer are two different names. It's not the same name. We don't find that Eliezer is ever named Elazar or Elazar is ever named Eliezer. As I said, the son of Moshe was Eliezer, and so too the servant of Avram, but the son of Aaron was Elazar. What about Gershom and Gershon? They write that also you cannot replace. If a person is Gershom with a mem, you cannot make it a Gershon. It's a different name. But what's interesting is here you actually do find, for whatever reason, that in Divrei Hayamim, in the last book of Tanakh, in our last biblical book called the Book of Chronicles in English, they call it Divrei Hayamim. In that book, actually, we find that Gershon, the son of Levi, is sometimes called Gershom. So I don't know why that would be, and at any rate, like I said, in terms of practical halacha, we do not replace mem with nun and nun with mem. So a person whose name is Gershon or Gershom has to know exactly how they spell their name, which one they were named after, the son of Moshe or the son of Levi. Most people today, it's much more common to be Gershon than Gershom, right? The son of Moshe. You see, Moshe was not so successful with his children, it seems. While the tribes of Levi and his descendants were very important, the descendants of Moshe were not particularly, the Talmud talks about it too, they were not particularly known, and therefore it's much more likely that people would call their child Gershon than Gershom. It's not an uncommon name, by the way. But there were a number of people that were called Gershom. One of the most famous people in the times of Rishonim, about 1,000 years ago, was a teacher of teachers of Rashi, Rabbeinu Gershom. They called him the Maora Gola, the light of exile. He lived in Germany most of his life, and the entire tradition of how to interpret the Talmud is based on his writings, and we do have some of his writings. A lot of it is preserved through his students and students of students, but there were published some of the writings, at least attributed to him. I don't know if it can be proven that it's Rabbeinu Gershom. They were not as well studied as Rashi, for instance. He's a student of students. But Rabbeinu Gershom's commentary on certain tractates is printed in small letters on the page, and in particular in Bava Batra, some people study Rabbeinu Gershom, because there is no Rashi on Bava Batra. Rashi died when he was writing the beginning of his commentary to Bava Batra, so about 80 or 90% of the tractate does not have his commentary. So people usually learn the commentary of his grandson, Rashbam, Rabbeinu Shmuel ben Gershom, Shmuel ben Meir, sorry. That was the son of a daughter of Rashi, grandson of Rashi, Rashbam, brother of Rabbeinu Tam. So that's the commentary that's mostly used to learn with the tractate Bava Batra after the page where Rashi died. But also Rabbeinu Gershom was printed there, so some people learn that. And he was Rabbeinu Gershom with mem, but that's unusual. Most people today, if the name is Gershom, it's usually with nun, Gershon. And by the way, in terms of the etymology of these words, Eliezer and Elazar, as I said, definitely mean the same thing. But Gershom and Gershon did not necessarily even mean the same thing. Gershom comes from the word ger, as Moshe said, ger ha'iti be'eretz nochriya. His first son he named Gershom. So it's from the word ger. I was a foreigner in a foreign land. But I was a sojourner maybe in a foreign land. Maybe that's how we should translate it. But Gershon, it doesn't say why Levi named one of his children Gershon. It may come also from the word ger, or it may come from the word gerush, which means exile, being thrown out of somewhere. So we don't know if the meanings of Gershom and Gershon were the same originally, and we generally consider these two different names. And if you like this video, please press like and please subscribe to our channel.